Something about this situation felt different right from the start. When a name like Claressa Shields enters a conversation with bold claims, people don't just scroll past it. They pause, they listen, and they start asking questions. But what truly made this situation bigger was the fact that those claims involved Papoose, someone who for years has carried a reputation built on loyalty, consistency, and staying far away from unnecessary drama. The moment those two names collided, the internet immediately sensed that this wasn't something that would stay quiet for long. Because this didn't feel like random gossip. It felt personal. It felt direct. And most importantly, it felt like something that could escalate quickly. At first, the claims didn't reach everyone at once. They started in small pockets, short clips, brief posts, and conversations that were easy to ignore if you weren't paying close attention. But that's how these situations always begin. Something gets said, a few people notice, and then suddenly it spreads. Within hours, more people began seeing it, reacting to it, and sharing it. Just like that, what started as a small moment turned into a full conversation. People weren't just asking what was said anymore. They were asking why now and what it meant. What made everything more intense was the tone behind it. The way Claressa spoke didn't feel casual. It didn't come across like a joke or something said without thought. It carried emotion, confidence, and a level of certainty that made people take it seriously, whether they agreed with it or not. And when someone speaks like that publicly, it immediately raises the stakes. Because now it's not just a statement, it's a position. It invites a response that as the clips continued to circulate, people reacted in different ways. Some were shocked, saying they never expected something like this to come out publicly. Others were skeptical, questioning the timing, the context, and whether there was more to the story that hadn't been revealed. Then there were those who chose not to take sides immediately. Instead, they waited. They waited to see how Papoose would respond. Because in situations like this, the first response often shapes everything that follows. And that's where the tension really started to build. For a moment, there was silence. No immediate reaction. No quick denial. No public back and forth. Just a pause. And in that pause, the internet did what it always does. It filled the space with its own narratives. People began connecting dots, bringing up past moments, and trying to find clues that could explain what was happening. Some of those connections made sense. Others didn't. But once the conversation reaches that level, logic isn't always the driving force anymore. Curiosity is. Then came the moment that changed everything. Papoose responded. And just like that, the story shifted from a one-sided claim to a full situation. Because when someone like him decides to speak, especially in response to something this direct, it's not just about defending himself. It's about controlling the narrative before it goes too far. What stood out about his response was how measured it felt. It didn't seem rushed. It didn't feel chaotic. It felt deliberate, like he understood exactly what was being said and how he wanted to address it. The tone mattered. It wasn't overly aggressive, but it wasn't passive either. It carried a quiet confidence, as if he was standing firm in his position without needing to over-explain. And that kind of response does something interesting. It doesn't end the conversation, but it shifts it. Now, instead of focusing only on the claims, people started comparing both sides. They began asking new questions, looking for inconsistencies, and searching for details that might support one version over the other. Just like that, the situation became layered. It wasn't simple anymore. Some people believed Claressa completely, saying her confidence made her claims feel credible. Others sided with Papoose, pointing to his history and reputation as reasons to question the claims. And then there were those who stayed in the middle, recognizing that situations like this are rarely as clear as they appear on the surface. But just as the conversation reached that point, another name quietly found its way back into the narrative. Remy Ma. And her presence didn't just bring attention, it brought weight. Because the moment her name entered the discussion, everything became more complex, more layered, and far more emotionally charged. What once looked like a situation between two individuals suddenly expanded into something bigger. Now it involved history, loyalty, and relationships that fans had followed for years. That shift changed how people viewed everything. It was no longer just about what was said in the moment. It became about what had been built over time. Remy Ma isn't just another name in the industry. She represents resilience, legacy, and a relationship story that many people believed in. So naturally, when her name resurfaced, the conversation deepened. It wasn't surface level anymore. It carried emotional weight. Fans began asking questions, not loudly at first but quietly with curiosity. Where does she stand in all of this? Is she aware of everything being said? Is her silence intentional? And as those questions spread, they began to evolve. Because in situations like this, silence doesn't stay neutral for long. It becomes something people interpret. Some saw her silence as strength, a refusal to engage in public drama. Others viewed it as strategy, a decision to wait, observe, and choose the right moment instead of reacting emotionally. And then there were those who believed something deeper might be happening behind the scenes. Private conversations, decisions being made away from the public eye while the internet tried to piece everything together. That's what made her presence so powerful. She didn't need to say anything. Her history alone carried enough weight to influence the narrative. Because when someone with that level of significance is connected to a situation, every detail starts to feel more important. Every pause feels intentional. Every silence feels loaded. Her involvement also introduced a deeper theme: loyalty. People weren't just analyzing actions anymore. They were analyzing relationships. What does loyalty look like in a moment like this? Who owes who a response? Should situations like this be handled publicly or privately? The conversation shifted. It became less about facts and more about values. And that's when stories like this take on a life of their own. At the same time, there's a reality that can't be ignored. The public is only seeing fragments, small clips, partial information, and reactions that may not reflect the full picture. But when someone like Remy Ma is connected to the situation, even indirectly, those fragments feel amplified. People begin connecting dots, building narratives, and filling in gaps with assumptions. And that's where things become complicated. Because what's unfolding online may only be a fraction of what's actually happening. Yet, to the audience, it feels complete. That's the power of modern celebrity culture. The ability to construct full stories from partial information. And once that happens, it becomes difficult to separate perception from reality. As time went on, the situation continued to grow. It wasn't just a conversation anymore. It became a narrative. People started choosing sides more strongly. Arguments intensified. Opinions became more fixed. Memes appeared. Clips were edited. Moments were taken out of context and given new meaning. And in the middle of all that noise, the original situation became harder to see clearly. Because when something reaches this level, it stops being just about facts. It becomes about perception. It becomes about what people feel, what they believe, and what they choose to focus on. And in that kind of environment, the truth doesn't always move as fast as the story. Sometimes it gets buried under layers of interpretation. But beneath all the noise, something more real is happening. The people involved are dealing with the pressure of public judgment in real time. Because once something becomes public, it doesn't stay contained. It spreads. It reaches people who don't know the full story and form opinions based on limited information. And that creates a different kind of weight. While the internet treats it like content, the individuals involved are living through it. They are dealing with reactions, comments, and constant scrutiny. And that pressure doesn't disappear when the conversation slows down. It lingers. This situation also raises bigger questions. How should personal issues be handled in the public eye? What happens when private matters become public discussions? How quickly do narratives form, and how hard is it to change them? Because once people believe something, even without full confirmation, it shapes how they view everything that follows. And that's why moments like this don't just fade away. They leave an impact. They shape perception. They create a version of events that sticks, even if the truth is more complicated. And for those involved, that can be one of the hardest parts. Not just what is being said, but how it is being understood. As things continue to unfold, one question remains. What happens next? Will there be more responses, more clarity, or will the situation slowly fade, leaving behind a narrative that people continue to debate long after it's over? Because in situations like this, closure isn't always guaranteed.